Hi, welcome to another edition of the Training Led Growth Podcast. I'm joined today by a really special guest, entrepreneur, longtime entrepreneur, current CEO of CloudShare, Zvi Guterman. Zvi, thank you so much for joining us.
Lovely to be here with you, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's always great to talk to you, Zvi. So Zvi, you always had an incredible background, started with the Israeli military, intelligence, and then you really jumped right into the entrepreneurial world, starting your first company, which was SafeEnd, correct?
SafeEnd, yes.
SafeEnd, which was ultimately acquired. And then kind of quickly after that, got your PhD, computer science. And then, you've really been the founder and CEO since 2007 of CloudShare. And let's just talk about that. So CloudShare is a really, I would say, powerful technology where you can spin up these live, hands-on lab environments for people to test and learn and train software applications and infrastructures. And I think I'm always so interested in what you're doing because I think it is kind of the future. People are doing it now, but I think it's going to be more and more the future of how people like to learn. Was that your idea when you started the company? What was the idea behind CloudShare when you got going?
I wasn't so familiar with the training world. I was familiar with the challenges of creating IT environments. So when I started the company, I was very familiar with the challenges of creating different configurations of Linux machine, Windows machines, Active Directory. Initially, coming from a technology background, I faced this challenge many times in QA, in support, and we, again and again, we had to take a setup. And we were investing a lot of energy building that setup. And we got into, of course, using virtualization. This was before cloud, right? Virtualization and then automation. And it was painful. And I thought to myself, when starting CloudShare, this is repeatable. Like, there should be such a service. At the time, I didn't think about cloud. I thought I need a service. And I was looking for a service that I can log in and just pick the setup that I need. And in a click of a button, or maybe after a few clicks, get the setup made for me. And I couldn't find such a service. So like many entrepreneurs said, wow, that we need such a service. As we started building it, we learned that actually these business applications of hands-on experience is actually the main market.
In our world, especially in technology, that everyone wants that hands-on experience.
It actually starts from the demo into the POC and into later on into the training, whether it's post-sale training, pre-sale, or whatever. So it translated over the years into the two main markets for CloudShare. One is the sales enablement, as we call it, and the other one is the education, the learning. So, and they together the same values that we trying to bring our customers. Business professionals are actually expecting the solutions that we provide to be one turnkey. The second is well integrated with the rest of their ecosystem. So what I think we're witnessing is one LMS, right? And as you guys are progressing and widening this category and providing your wonderful solution with all sorts of innovative ideas, even for I like what you guys are doing for the marketing, right? For using training for as a marketing tool, where people are able to get snippets of their classes just for an hour for free, even if you're before becoming a customer. And I remember the first time I saw that, I think a year ago. What a lovely idea! And so back to the big picture, people see the LMS, then what we call business acceleration cloud, this hands-on experience we are learning, and I think IDC already called it business acceleration cloud. This new category of this hands-on experience that started from virtual machines, but actually another interesting maybe observation. Today, it's true also for SaaS vendors, right? And of course, for solution running on top of Azure or whatever the cloud is, and they all need this experience, this hands-on experience.
You know, if you lecture to someone, they're not going to remember it. If you let them read it, maybe they'll learn a little bit more. If you let them use it and do it, they retain. You know, that's like how they'll learn. So, like the hands-on piece is so important.
One of the interesting things that we witness is that cloud became commodity, and we say, wow, everyone is using the cloud. But actually, I think what we learned during the last 6 months, at least I think you and I were both witnessing, is that yes, maybe 90% of companies were already adopting cloud, but usually it meant for most companies they were using maybe backup or maybe email.
Right.
But the really adoption of the cloud for many reasons, it was working for them. Actually, COVID was an accelerator, was a necessity for them to rush and adapt new ways. And again, we saw people saying, you know, we were big ticket, so it was worthwhile for us to travel, but now it's impossible. And suddenly you open another track for them, another opportunity, and they say, wow, it really is a game changer, enabler, an important enabler during COVID, but moreover, it actually will help me when COVID is behind us to actually improve my business in general.
Do you think what we're seeing, like Cloudflare has been having some issues like DNS stuff? Microsoft 365 went down, right, last week, I think for like a day or like half a day, right? And do you think that the cloud adoption that you're talking about, is it traffic, is it usage, or do you think that like there's true like cyber attack stuff happening more during this time? Do you have any idea about that or thoughts on that?
I think two things. One, of course, there is more cyber crime. That's definitely is growing, and unfortunately, we're witnessing it globally. I think the other point here that you mentioned is with this cloud adoption, how reliable is the service, and what reliable means, right? And I think that's one of the big challenges for software. That on one hand, we were all eager and rushing for beta products and, I need this new phone and so on, while we also want, and there is a challenge here, we want some reliability. You cannot have all three together. If you want fast beta, cheap, and reliable, forget it. You can have two out of the three.
Yeah, pick two. You can pick two. It's funny, when you used to have an outage, even like 10 years ago, you'd tell your sales team, let's say email went down, remember? You'd be running like Microsoft Office Exchange, and Exchange would go down. You'd say, okay, well, everybody get on the phone, and everybody's going to just make phone calls for the next 3 hours, or it doesn't matter, like take out your pen and paper, and you're going to get on the phone, and we'll still do business. But now everyone's making through voice over IP, recorded on Gong, that goes right to salesforce.com, that's tracking your behavior, that's tracking everything. And it's all over the internet. It's all in your bandwidth and your internet. And Zoom, and then you're doing a Zoom on top of that. So we've become so reliant on the infrastructure in the applications that when you do have an outage and then you have a 99.99% uptime, that's what you're selling. It's like this crazy fragility, like you said. I think it is actually more fragile. We've become more fragile.
I completely agree. We are more fragile. And in many ways, us as a providers, we in between, right? The customer and the cloud providers. What I find, and I think that I expect that we'll see more and more, that the companies that lead the market will start dictating better KPIs.
What do you think will happen? I think that education in general is changing. I mean, K through 12 and higher ed is going through this crazy time. But there's this big concept that universities, are going to change because virtual micro degrees. There's this school called Lambda School that now just teaches coding as like this coding academy. And so I think in education, different than the way B2B that we think about it, but I think education is also going to change because people are going to value these like smaller micro degrees or knowledge more and more. Do you agree with that? Do you think that will start to happen as well?
I look at education maybe at three different lenses, right? Maybe the K-12, right? Our kids, then maybe the college and beyond, grad school, and then the professional education as we in different companies. And I think in each of the three categories, COVID and even before COVID help us accelerate the need for change. Right? And definitely, I think on the professional side, this is actually happening with services such as the two of us are providing, the two companies are providing, where people are already doing development courses and learning about products and even asking themselves, what can I learn I have 2 hours a week, right? Yeah. How can I be more productive and what's new? And it goes from podcasts like that we're recording right now to reading more materials and so on. So I'm actually on the optimistic side. I think COVID is a good acceleration.
In B2B, I think certifications, are becoming so powerful because technologies, again, AWS is great at this, Cisco, Microsoft, Juniper Networks, even some of our customers, UiPath and OpenText and folks like that, they have this certification Confluent. They have these certification programs that are hard, but it takes time, it takes effort. You actually do have to pay typically to get certified in this technology, but it's so strategic. It's good for the user because they're learning these new digital skills that's marketable, that they put on LinkedIn, that they can say, look, I know this technology and I'm certified in it. So it's great for them. But then also from a company standpoint, it's so powerful because they are getting sticky users. They're getting the users that want to keep using that technology because they're certified in it.
And maybe for our listeners, I think the best companies that I witness are actually even taking it to things like, if you have enough people certified on my product, then most likely you're going to ask less questions on support. You'll be more independent, more efficient. So how about I take 1 point off your support fee, your yearly support fee?
That's a good idea.
That's an example, and we see that, and that's a win-win. If you certify enough people, you're going to ask less questions, you're going to waste less resources on my support. I can give it back to you.
And the other thing, too, is your customer success team, your support team now has time to do other things, but then your customer success team, too, is probably getting more into looking at data, analytics, how can we help drive your business? Because I think a lot of customer success gets wrapped up into training. They get wrapped up into answering questions that, basically, someone should already know. One last thing, Zvi, because I know we're running out of time here, but what are we think a lot about, on that vein, we think about automation. So how can we automate processes and tasks within learning? So, again, it's on demand, but it's automated. And I think we're doing that a little bit together, where we can automate the spinning up of the environments, the self-service way of going through learning and courses and learning paths. But I think that the more we can automate, the better, because then again, we're allocating people to do creativity, thinking, problem solving type stuff. What do you think about that as like this emerging trend in our world?
Yeah, sure. I think it's great, and I love what we are doing together. And I'll give maybe two perspectives. One is the student, and every one of us as individual want the training to be tailored for me. I want everything with my pace, and I want sometimes I maybe am fast learning, and maybe I'm a little bit slow on something else, and I want the program to adapt to my needs. The other one that maybe I'll touch upon is actually the backend and what we provide for organizations, right? And one of the values that we bring with LMS and BAC is this ability for the head of training, the head of education, to quickly distill information about what's happening. And I think we all value that, right? This amazing dashboard that you want to know exactly what's happening with my business. I have 70 maybe trainers. I have maybe 500 partners, and I have 10,000 students a month. How can we translate this as fast as possible to my business KPIs? And it can be dollars, it can be user hours, engagement. How many of your students actually understood the most advanced feature? And you know what's the advanced feature, and I think that's wonderful. And again, I love how it's presented. I love your dashboard that we see in Raven, and this collaboration, I think, really elevating organizations to take it to the next level and be much more efficient and allow their business to run faster.
I really appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe. Always fun talking with you.
Thank you. Have a great day. We will talk soon, my friend.